So today we're going to delve a little into the Cauldron of Motion, or the heart space, chest cavity. So if it is safe and appropriate, begin to follow your breath. Placing one hand on the Cauldron of Motion, or your heart, and the other hand on the Cauldron of Warming, or your belly. And just begin to notice where the breath lands between these two hands. No judgment or forcing. Just breathing into the touch of the hands. And this is where the magic and the medicine lies. Taking a moment to be fully present, here and protected as you receive this transmission. So, we hear a lot, particularly in the spiritual community, about and around heart-led business, heart-led opportunities. Listen to your heart. We've got a lot of clues in language that this area is particularly important to how we feel generally in life. You know, someone is light-hearted, we can be heavy-hearted, we can be broken-hearted. And none of these things relate to the physical organ. They relate to this space. They relate to this portal. And I know I speak about these portals and you can think this is, this is a little bit too much, but to kind of conceptualize. But that is what the cauldrons invite us to recognize, really, is that the body is our own unique portal into these different dimensions and possibilities. And this area, this heart space, this cavity, the chest cavity, is the cauldron of motion. So this is where things start to come out and project into the world, into the space. Now, don't get me wrong, because thought is the first part of projection. Thought is the first part of projection that puts it out there and affects our, reality as we see it. But we're really manifesting from the heart space. And the thought process, coupled with the medicine and the juice and the elements of the lower cauldron, the cauldron of warming, when they meet in the heart space, they begin to project out. And this is the feedback loop that we are receiving from our experience, from our lived experience. So this is, how important is that, to get this part of us, this portal within, this cavity, this container, this cauldron. It's really important that we pay attention to what's happening here, because it's directly affecting the reality that we live. It's directly affecting the relationships that we have with everybody, not just, romantic relationships, the relationships with your children, the relationships with your colleagues, the relationships with whoever it is that you're coming into contact with. And it's your reactions to things. Now, there's an old proverb, and I can't remember. I want to say it's Tibetan, but it may not be. If it's from another ancient culture, my apologies. But there's this proverb which I think really sums up the idea of the contents of the cauldron of motion. And that is that there is somebody walking across the room with a cup of tea, and another person runs into them and they spill the tea because of this collision. And there is a kind of master guru type person in the room with them, and he says to the person who has spilled the tea, why did you spill tea onto the floor? And I think it's a student of this master, this guru, and he says, well, I spilled the tea on the floor because, Jimmy ran into me. He said, no, why did you spill the tea? And he says, well, I spilled the tea maybe because I was walking too fast across the floor when Jimmy bumped into me. No, he says, why did you spill the tea? And he comes up with various excuses and reasons for why he spilled this tea. And all of them involve the Jimmy running into him, his eagerness to get the master the tea, whatever it was. All of these reasons were coming out. And the master says, in the end, you spilled the tea because there was tea in the cup. As in, he was asking why he'd spilled tea. Had there been coffee in the cup, he would have spilled coffee. Had there been water in the cup, he would have spilled water. All of the outside circumstances around that, Jimmy running into him being in a rush, the floor being slippy, whatever those outside circumstances were, he only spilled tea because tea was what was already in the cup. Tea was what had been placed in the cup. And this is very much, this sums up completely for me the Cauldron of Motion. Whatever is in that cup, whatever is in that cauldron that you are responsible energetically for is what will spill out whenever you meet outside circumstances. Because life is always going to be lifing at you, I've said the wrong word there, lifing at you. Life is always going to be lifing for you, but things are always going to happen. Adverse situations, difficult people, money worries, issues raising children, all of these things are going to come up for us at various points in our lives, because this is what we came contracted in for. We contracted in for an experience, for relationship with others, for, a relationship with this world that we live in currently, this reality that we live in currently. We've chosen to be here under all of these circumstances. And so we will never have control fully. I wouldn't even say partially. We will never have control partially over the outside things that are going to happen. But what we will always have control over is what's in the cup, what's in the cauldron, what is contained within these portals, these vessels. Because particularly with the Cauldron of Motion, this is how we're going to react when these other life events and other people and their complications and confusions and life lessons come into contact with our sphere. And so I just want you to maybe feel into today. Drop into the heart space. Now, what does that mean? Dropping into the heart space, something we hear a lot in meditation and things like that. So dropping into the heart space just means to take your focus there. How does it feel in there? Have you ever dropped into your heart for a start? Dropped into that heart space? The belly is more reactive. The belly is, we can feel things in the belly. Even when we're disconnected from it, we may pay no attention to them whatsoever. But we have a lot of sensation in the belly area because we have, as I've discussed, with the Cauldron of Warming videos, we have pees and poos, and we have sexual feelings, and we have menstruation, we have ejaculation, we have whether we consciously connect with any of it or not, we have a lot of sensations in there. The heart space and the back, the upper back, that's what I want you to just have a little feel into today. Where is there tightness? Are you hunched over? Is your heart space closed? How easy is it for you to kind of squeeze those scapulas together and open the chest? Feel where your natural posture is at the moment, and then see how would it feel if I widened my collarbones and opened this heart space. Does that feel natural? Does that feel really awkward? Does it feel is it discomfort when I do it? These are the clues as to how this cauldron of motion is doing. Another thing that lives within the cauldron of motion is our grief and our grieving process. And we've all been touched by grief to a greater or lesser extent. How have I processed any grief? Have I allowed myself to grieve? So these are all cauldron of motion questions that we could pose today.